go to James Creedon, who's revved up and ready to go. James, good to see you. Je suis Charlie, the most popular hashtag in Twitter history.
That's right. It helped to rally record crowds on the streets of Paris yesterday. It very quickly after the tragic events of last Wednesday sort of spontaneously arose on social media as the rallying cry for people who were horrified by what happened and who were in support of press freedom. Paris Charlie Hebdo attack, Je suis Charlie, hashtag one of the most popular in Twitter history, says. The Telegraph and some of their stats are at its peak 6,500 times a minute it was being used as a hashtag, and it featured 3.4 million tweets in just one 24-hour period. The first person to use the hashtag in this image form, which went massively viral as well and was seen on the streets in banner form, it's stuck up all around our newsroom, for example, was a French journalist for Le Progrès newspaper by the name of Joachim Ronsin. He put it up online around midday on Wednesday. It also went massively viral. So record stuff, even though a lot of press in France and internationally was quick to say, well, can we really all get behind the Je suis Charlie banner if we don't fully agree with the editorial line of the newspaper? We agree with press freedom, but all of that. But, you know, can we necessarily identify with the newspaper to that extent? So you saw comments such as this: Je ne suis pas Charlie, I am not Charlie, but believe me, I am just as sad as you, or I am just as behind the principle of freedom of speech.
It's just like people to water down the message, isn't it, by picking through things and trying to find fault. You know?
That's right. I think there was probably an element too much of that, and it didn't stop the crowds getting out on the streets in massive numbers. You can see
it was the event yesterday was huge, and that picture really sums it up, almost looking like the French Revolution, isn't it?
It's an extraordinary image. That is Reuters news agency behind that one, but people were snapping photos from their smartphones, and it was really
the view I had at one point was kind of like that. I was in a fourth floor apartment above the Place de la République, where we were broadcasting from, and it was very much like that. It was a phenomenal number of people.
It's record, isn't it? I think it's since the funeral of Victor Hugo in the 19th century, apparently the crowds haven't been that big. And then, of course, for François Hollande, he was pictured at several moments which were, I think, sort of flattering for the president, who's very low in the polls. It's obviously not the major issue to be discussed, but it's one thing that people are picking up on, this moment where he embraces.
That is a really, a spontaneous embrace as well, it must be said, because the man concerned, who was a columnist at Charlie Hebdo, actually grabbed the president and hugged him. It wasn't as though Hollande was trying to cash in on something there, but it was a spontaneous moment.
I think it's been such a serious week that we're entitled to a couple of little laughs. Right?
Go ahead.
Now, The Guardian and other media have picked up on the fact that at this exact moment, when this embrace was taking place, so quite serious emotion, right? You can see colleagues, Charlie Hebdo colleagues, sniggering in the background. What's all that about? Well, it appears at that precise moment, a pigeon pooped on the president's shoulder. And
that is beautiful.
And some were wondering, was this not a reincarnated Charlie Hebdo cartoonist in the form of a pigeon having his joke about it? So there you go. It did lead. You can see them actually sniggering in the background. There may be some reference to that in next Wednesday's
Kate Moody's losing it on this side of the table. I'm just pointing that out to everybody else.
Well, there was also, on the other side of the political aisles, there was Nicolas Sarkozy. He was meant to stay in the third row, right?
Oh, as if he'd stay in third row.
Well, he didn't. He kind of cropped up, and it's led to a rather funny Tumblr, Je suis Nico, and there he is kind of appearing, cropping up in various different circumstances where he would not be expected to be so prominent. Oops, that's not the right image. What happened there? In any case, I've seen this mouse. I'm blaming... Bad workman blames his tools, but there you go.
It's everybody's Sarkozy.
Right. And there he is again. Anyway,
this is funny.
The thing is, right, the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists, because they're quite, maybe not quite anarchistic, but they're left-wing, and they were saying, look, we don't want this to become a big political issue. It was associations that started this. So they had, made a couple of little warnings about that, as had Reporters Without Borders, saying a lot of the heads of state present didn't have a very good record when it comes to freedom of expression. But I think generally speaking, Mark, it wasn't just the Je suis Charlie slogan. It was just, I'm Jewish, I am a cop, I am a Muslim. Really a massive display of unity.
Need to leave it there.
Yeah.
Hearing people chanting, "We love the police," was a first for me and for many people, and that maybe signals a sea change somewhere in French society. Yeah. James, thank you. Kate,
thanks, Mark.
Thank you for joining us too. Great to have you for the business there. And thank you for being with us as well. More to come, of course, after a very short break.